All right, good day and welcome to today's edition of the show. It's nice to have you join us once again on our exciting and engaging episode of Political Spectrum, coming to you live from Uyo, the state's capital. I remain yours sincerely, Onumese Ehinoma Olusegun, and as usual, we will be focusing on recent developments. Well, today is Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, and it makes exactly 58 days of President Bola Tinubu in office as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, moving straight into some of the big stories we've been following, we start with Alhaji Atiku's response to President Tinubu's statement earlier about the Presidential Tribunal. Heaven won't fall if you are removed, Atiku replies Tinubu. Now, the former Vice President and candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has tackled President Bola Tinubu over his position that nullifying the outcome of the presidential election that held on February 25 may lead to anarchy in the country. Atiku, through his team of lawyers led by Chief Chris Uche, SAN, said he observed that President Tinubu, in the final written address, had filed before the Presidential Election Petition Court sitting in Abuja, misunderstood the depth of issues that were raised against his election. The PDP candidate, who placed reliance on Supreme Court decided case law, maintained that the heaven will not fall should the court nullify President Tinubu's election. Now, according to him, the fact that a presidential election has never been nullified by the court in Nigeria before now is not a good reason not to do so, as it is very just to do so in the circumstances, according to him. In the process he filed before the court, Atiku, who came second in the presidential contest, stated, at this stage it is pertinent to observe from the outset that the second respondent's final written address with respect reflects a complete misconception and unfortunate misunderstanding of the case of the petitioners, notwithstanding the magisterial arrogance, condescending cynicism, and overbearing misanthropy with which he has sought to trivialize the petitioner's case, as will be shown hereunder. Furthermore, a subtle threat of apocalyptic catastrophe of national chaos and anarchy, if a judgment is not given in a particular manner, cannot deter a court of law from doing justice. Now, the court must do justice. Rather, let the heavens fall. But as courageously stated by the Supreme Court par Oguntade JSC in the epic case of Amechi versus INEC and others in 2008, I must do justice even if the heavens fall. The truth, of course, is that when justice has been done, the heavens stay in place. It is also pertinent to observe the mandatory provisions of paragraph 5C and 5D of the Election Judicial Proceedings Practice Direction 2023, rendering it invalid. Now, we urge your lordship to discountenance as well as strike out the said final written address for gross non-compliance, he added, alleging that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, clearly mismanaged the election as shown by evidence. Now, the former VP said the sole witness and the electoral body produced before the court admitted that the technological innovation introduced through the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, and transmission to the IREF portal was to guarantee the transparency and integrity of the election results. Atiku stressed that despite the innovations, INEC, through its witness, admitted that there was a technical glitch that made the system to fail to work. He said the witness, who is a director in charge of information and communication technology, ICT, at the INEC, further admitted that the presidential and National Assembly elections were held on same day and with the same BVAS machines. Now, he openly admitted that at the time the result was declared on the 1st of March 2023, all the results had not been uploaded to the IREF. He was shown the European Union Observer's final report, which was admitted as Exhibit RA6, and he read out the relevant portions indicting the conduct and outcome of the presidential election. It is I quote, "It is instructive to note that despite the uniqueness of the new regime of election management, INEC failed to call even one field officer or agent or staff, or any ward collation agent or local government collation agent, or state collation agent, or poll officials, any of its numerous registration area technicians, RACTECs, or even the presiding officers, the POs, assistant presiding officers, APOs 1, 2, and 3, who handled the BVAS machines, or persons who operated any aspect of the technological system, including the IREV, to give evidence or to even explain the nebulous technical glitch. Article added, end of quote. Besides, he argued the President Tinubu did not call any witness in support of his claim of victory in the elections, but only one witness, a certain Senator Okpeyemi Bamidele, who claimed to be practicing law in the United States as well as in Nigeria, and at the same time, a seventh senator who came to speak on the qualifications of the second respondent and admitted that the name of the second respondent is the subject of the U.S. forfeiture judgment admitted in court as Exhibit PBF1. Now, he admitted that the second respondent did not score 25% of the votes cast in the FCT in the elections. Article therefore prayed the court to declare that the return of President Tinubu as winner of the election was invalidated by reasons of substantial non-compliance with the mandatory provisions of the Electoral Act 2022 on electronic transmission of results for collation and verification by deliberate bypass and failure to transmit the election results electronically. Now, the petitions have established that the return of the second respondent as the winner of the presidential election held on 25th day of February 2023 was unlawful and unconstitutional, having not secured 1/4 of the valid vote cast in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, as required by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. Now, the petitioners have established that the second respondent was clearly disqualified under the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended to contest the presidential election held on 25th day of February 2023, having regard to order of criminal forfeiture on him arising from drug-related offenses, his declaration of allegiance to a country other than Nigeria and acquisition of citizenship of another country, and presenting a forged certificate to the first respondent. The petitioners have proved that second respondent was not duly elected by majority of the lawful vote cast in the election. The respondents proffered very scanty evidence in defense and virtually abandoned their pleadings by not calling necessary witnesses, not having any credible defense to the petition. We submit with all sense of responsibility that this nation and its judiciary stand at the threshold of history. We submit that the fact that the presidential election has never been nullified by courts in Nigeria before now is not a good reason not to do so now, as is very just to do it. As we eloquently put by the celebrated Lord Denning MR in the case of Parker versus Parker, 1954, I quote, "What is the argument on the other side? Only this, that no case has been found in which it had been done before. That argument does not appeal to me in the least. If we never do anything which has not been done before, we shall never act anywhere. The law will stand still whilst the rest of the world goes on, and that will be bad for both. May our law and our country no more stand still while the rest of the world goes on." The PDP candidate added in the final brief of argument he filed alongside his party. It will be recalled that President Tinubu had earlier challenged the legal competence of Atiku's petition, which he said grossly lacked merit. In a preliminary objection he filed before the court, Tinubu described Atiku as a consistent serial loser that had since 1993 crisscrossed different political parties in search of power. Now, he said the first petitioner, Atiku, has been consistently contesting and losing successive presidential elections in Nigeria since 1993, whether at the party primary election level or at the general election, including 1993 when he lost the Social Democratic Party primary election to the late Chief MKO Abiola, in 2007 when he lost the presidential election to the late President Umar Musa Yar'Adua, in 2011 when he lost the People's Democratic Party presidential primary election to President Goodluck Jonathan, in 2015 when he lost the APC primary election to President Muhammadu Buhari, in 2019 when he lost the presidential election to President Muhammadu Buhari, and now 2023 when he has again lost the presidential election to the respondent, insisting that he was validly returned as winner of the presidential election by INEC. Tinubu told the court that unlike Atiku, he has been a most consistent politician who has not shifted political tendencies and alignment. Interesting arguments and times ahead. We look forward to the final statements from the tribunal regarding this important case, moving away temporarily from the presidential tribunal. It's almost 28th of July. Now, as Tinubu approaches deadline and replaces few names on ministerial list, about less than 4 days to the expiration of 60-day provision for the president to submit names of ministerial nominees to the Senate for screening and confirmation, President Bola Tinubu is yet to fulfill his constitutional provisions. Recall that the President Tinubu took the oath of office on May 29th when former President Muhammadu Buhari handed over the mantle of leadership to him. Multiple sources in the Senate told media sources over the weekend that the upper legislative chamber is yet to receive the final list of the ministerial nominees. Sources at the presidency had last week hinted that the list was ready, but that a few adjustments were being made by the president. One of the sources disclosed that 4 names initially penciled down by the president in 4 states have been withdrawn and replaced with new names. Now, another source also disclosed that the final list was supposed to be submitted to the Senate last week, but for the opposition against the immediate past governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Ganduje, who is said to be. Now, Ganduje, it was gathered, was initially considered for a ministerial slot, but for the resignation of Senator Adamu, which was said to have propelled the president to nominate him as possible replacement for the former chairman, being from the northwest where Adamu hails from. Now, this is said to be generating crisis as some stalwarts of the APC have urged that the former governor of Nasarawa State, Senator Tanko Almakura, who is from the North Central, as the former chairman, was more cool-headed than Ganduje. Senator Almakura was one of the leading aspirants for the position during the last APC convention, but was prevailed upon by the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, to step down for Senator Adamu. The former Nasarawa State governor at the time was accused of being Asiwaju Bola Tinubu's ally, who was then one of APC's presidential aspirants. But sources familiar with the intrigues playing out in the choice of the APC chairman hinted that the opposition to Ganduje's choice is responsible for the inability of the president to submit the ministerial list to the Senate last week. Now, although it was speculated that the ministerial list was forwarded to the Red Chamber last week, a highly placed source, while responding to media inquiries, said, and I quote, "We are yet to get the final list of the ministerial nominees. If we have received it, the clerk of the National Assembly would have read it out. There will be no need to keep the list if it is received." Another source had hinted that as of Friday, the president was still editing the list and will submit the final list this week. Every minute he's changing some names. Up till Friday when he traveled, he still edited some names. But by this week, he will call the presidential liaison officer to the Senate and give him the list. It's this week that he will send the list. This is a question that only a close inside source can answer. A lawmaker from Southwest who spoke on the matter said the president also confirmed that he was yet to. The lawmaker said, and I quote, "I learned the Senate president has been given the list, and what is delaying it is the addition and subtraction to the list. Anything can happen at the last minute. Another thing causing the delay is the politics and intrigues concerning the possible choice of Dr. Umar Ganduje as the national chairman of the APC. Most of the party leaders don't want Ganduje, but a majority of them are rooting for former Nasarawa State Governor Tanko Almakura to take over from Senator Abdullahi Adamu. They are also rooting for former Senate spokesman Senator Ajibola Bashiru as secretary of the party. Whereas Almakura is from Nasarawa as the ousted Adamu, Bashiru is also from Osun State as the ousted Omishore. Most APC leaders are against Ganduje as national chairman given the alleged matter, and that is why most of the leaders are saying it is not good for the image of the party. They have gone to meet with Ashiwaju that they don't want Ganduje, but the buck stops at the president's table. As I also with a new development that has dominated mainstream media recently. Now, NSAS. Now, on Sunday, a letter from the Lagos State Government Public Procurement Agency titled Letter of No Objection Mass Burial for the 103 NSAS victims of 2020 circulated in the internet for several hours. Now, the letter revealed that the state government engaged the services of Messrs. TOS Funeral Limited, a private firm, at the cost of 61,285 naira to bury 61,285,000 naira to bury 103 bodies tagged as NSAS victims. Many perceived that the bodies scheduled for mass burial were that of protesters killed by the Nigerian army at the Lekki toll gate on 20th October 2022 during the NSAS protest against police brutality. However, several hours later, the state government, through the Ministry of Health, put out a statement to debunk what it described as misinformation to stir public disaffection against the Lagos state government. The letter showed that the state government had approved 103 bodies recovered across the state for mass burial in Sunday's statement. The ministry permanent secretary Olusegun Ogboye maintained that none of the bodies emanated from the Lekki toll gate area of the state. Now, moving further with this story, the state government said it approved 103 unclaimed bodies for mass burial 3 years after the incident due to the need to decongest the morgue. In the aftermath of the NSAS violence, Mr. Ogboye said that the office of the chief coroner had invited members of the public through public adverts and announcements in national newspapers who had lost loved ones or whose relatives had been declared missing between 19 and 27th October of 2020 to visit the Department of Pathology and Forensic Medicine of the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, LASUT, to identify these said bodies. Now, setting the record straight, recall that there had been controversy over the number of deaths recorded during the NSAS protest, resulting in the governor setting up an inquest led by Justice Doris Okuwobi. Since the protest in 2020, both the Lagos government and the federal government have consistently denied any mass killing during the NSAS protest. Now, the memo is coming over 2 years after the widespread protest across the country. Thousands of Nigerians across the country took to the streets to protest police brutality and call for far-reaching reforms, particularly with regards to the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, den of the police. The weeks-long protest, which gained international attention, culminated in the controversial shooting of protesters at the popular Lekki toll gate in Lagos, one of the rallying points for those who partook in the demonstrations. However, the Lagos state government the state government also said that the 103 bodies were picked by the Lagos State Environmental Health Unit, SEHMU, in the aftermath of NSAS violence and community clashes at Fagba, Ketu, Ikorodu, Orile, Ajegunle, Abulegba, Ikeja, Ojota, Ekoro, Ogba, Isolo, and Aja areas of Lagos State. There was also a jailbreak at Ikoyi prison. According to them, the 103 casualties mentioned in the documents were from these incidents and not from Lekki toll gate, as been alleged for the avoidance of doubt. Nobody was retrieved from the Lekki toll gate. The state government said that during the judicial panel of inquiry, the chief pathologist of the state, John Obafunwa, was subpoenaed to testify and produce the record of the bodies recovered. There was not a single finding in the report or ensuring white paper attributing the death of any named citizen listed in the autopsy to Lekki incident, Mr. Ogboye had said. Okay, still moving on, here is what we may now know. During the judicial panel of inquiry, adequately reported by few media sources, the expert witness, Mr. Obafunwa, testified that at least 99 people were killed in different parts of Lagos during the NSAS protests and had their bodies deposited at a morgue. The shooting of unarmed protesters by soldiers on October 20th, 2020, generated controversies including about the number of people killed and injured during the evidence presented by witnesses, including videos, showed that soldiers shot indeed at the protesters. The state government, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, initially said no one died from the shooting, but later said only 2 persons died. The judicial panel, in its report, dismissed the government's claims and confirmed 9 protesters were killed at the toll gate by state agents. The 9 deceased persons mentioned in the report are Victor Ibanga, Abuta Solomon, Jide, Olalekan Ashafa, Olamilekan Ajasa, Kolade Salami, Folorunsho Labisi, Kenechukwu Ugo, and Nathaniel Solomon. The report described Abiodun Adesanya, Ifeanyi Eji, Tola, and Wisdom as missing, presumed dead. It started that 22 persons sustained gun injuries, and led by Lieutenant Colonel Bello, left their base with blank and live ammunitions to confront and disperse youths holding only national flags with live bullets. The report partly reads, now the soldiers actually shot blank and live bullets directly and pointedly into the midst of the protesters at the Lekki toll gate, with the deliberate intention to assault, maim, and kill. The soldiers turned back ambulances that were invited to render first aid and assistance to the wounded protesters. Finally, it has become quite obvious that these two arguments vary in facts as presented. Well, may the souls of the deceased rest in peace, and declares PDP Elumelu winner. Now, the National Assembly Election Petition Tribunal in Asaba, Delta State, has invalidated the election of Labour Party Ngozi Okolie as the representative for the Anyocha Oshimili constituency in the House of Representatives. The tribunal ruled on Monday that Okolie had not been a member of the Labour Party by May 28, 2022, the date of the primary election, and thus he was not properly sponsored by the party. As a result, the tribunal declared the runner-up in the February 25, 2023 National Assembly elections, Ndudi Elumelu from the People's Democratic Party, as the winner. Elumelu, the immediate past minority leader of the House of Reps, had submitted his petition to the tribunal requesting Okolie's disqualification. Okolie had previously been declared the winner of the election by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. More details as this development unfolds. Now, back to the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. Presidential Tribunal, anxiety mounts as Judgment Day beckons. Now, it's no longer news that the anxiety has started building up in the camp of President Bola Tinubu and the presidential candidates of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, and in the camp of that of Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party, as the Judgment Day beckons at the Presidential Election Petition Court, where the declaration of the president as winner of the February 25th election is being challenged. Already with the filing of the final addresses by both parties in the petitions filed by Atiku and Obi against the victory of President date for judgment. In their separate petitions, both candidates had challenged the should nullify the election of Tinubu on the grounds that at the time of the presidential election, he was not qualified to contest on grounds of forfeit another country other than Nigeria, also presenting a forged university certificate, also perjury and inability to win the highest vote cast in the election. Both also said for a candidate to be declared president, his part, Peter Obi also alleged that Vice President Kashim Shettima, at the time of his nomination as running mate, was already the senatorial candidate of the All Progressives Congress for Borno Central. In his final address, settled by his lead counsel, Chief Chris Uche, Atiku said INEC's assertion that he won in 21 states was neither disputed, retracted, debunked, and therefore the court should proceed to declare him winner of the election. The former vice president who accused the electoral body of manipulating the outcome of the election in favor of Tinubu and the APC urged the court not to be intimidated by the ruling party, but to be courageous to stand on the path of justice. Atiku and Obi's teams described Tinubu's statement that there would be anarchy if the election was nullified as Chair Wole Olanipekun SAN, threatening that if the election which produced him as president is nullified, it could lead to absurdity, chaos, anarchy, and alteration of the very intentions of legislation. In the case of Atiku, the electoral umpire had, in its response to Atiku's petition, asserted that the PDP presidential candidate won 21 states in the last presidential poll. It listed the 21 states won by Atiku and his political party to include Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Borno, Delta, Ekiti, Gombe, Jigawa, Kaduna, Katsina, Kebbi, Kogi, Kwara, Nasarawa, Niger, Osun, Sokoto, Taraba, Yobe, and Zamfara, respectively. Atiku therefore urged the court to hold that since the electoral umpire, which on its own averments claimed that he won states and did not rebut the assertion throughout the proceedings, the tribunal should proceed to uphold the declaration. Now, the final written address read in part, and I quote, "Very importantly, the first respondent, INEC, who conducted the election, made an open admission in paragraphs 18 of his reply to the petition where it unequivocally stated thus: it diligently discharges its duties when it collated the first petitioner, Atiku, scores at the election, which aggregates to 6,984,520, winning only 21 states to wit: Adama, Akwa Ibom, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Borno, Delta, Ekiti, Gombe, Jigawa, Kaduna, Katsina, Kebbi, Kogi, Kwara, Nasarawa, Niger, Osun, Sokoto, Taraba, Yobe, and Zamfara. Indeed, as admitted by the first respondent INEC, the first petitioner won in these 21 states. It is important to note that throughout the trial, the urge your lordship to hold that this constitutes an admission that requires no further proof. It also constitutes an admission against interest, while accusing the INEC of deliberate manipulation of the result of the polls. Atiku and his party equally described the failure to electronically transmit the results of the election as willful sabotage. We hope to hear from the tribunal regarding the final date of judgment, as we hope and pray that peace be sustained in our dear nation, Nigeria. All right, we'll go on a short break. These are the major mainstream stories we are following for today's edition continuously as they continue to develop. We'll go on a short break. Thereafter, we'll be right back. Remember, this is Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television, coming to you live in the city of Uyo, the state's capital. Stay tuned. Join us again.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Your horizon.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited of the death of Abel.
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Today, for the inauguration of this administration's National Economic Council. The National Economic Council was established by the provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 1999 as amended, as one of the executive bodies of the federal government. The NEC has the mandate to advise the President concerning the economy for the coordination of the economic plans and programs of government, ministries, departments, and they are the platform for robust the Central Bank of Nigeria and other keys year 2003, I expressed this administration's commitment to improving the lives of Nigerians, compassion towards one another, and duly reward. I also listed the principles that will guide our administrations, and it is as follows: to be impartial, to govern according to the constitution of criminality, to promote economic growth and development through job creation, food security, and an end to poverty, to prominently feature women and youth, a credit culture, to discourage corruption while strengthening the effectiveness and efficiency of various anti-corruption agencies. I also highlighted 8 priority areas to which they, by ending.
All right, many thanks for staying tuned. That was a video clip of the president making some very, very, very strong-worded statements and making it clear what his objectives are and, you know, the things he intends to do. At this point, we'd like to bring in our guest. He's a managing partner of Ogbege and Associates, which is a legal firm, and is also a public commentator, public affairs commentator. He's Mr. Daniel Ogbege. Good morning to you. Mr. Dan, good morning to you. Can you hear me? Okay, still on the developments as we continue to follow them, I'd like to ask him a few questions about Atiku's response to Tinubu stating that it will be anarchy and chaos. That has raised a lot of criticisms, you know, even at the opposition and even at technical glitch. So we'll go on a short break again, pardon us. Probably when we have been able to straighten out those things, we'll get back to you and the conversation will start in earnest. Please stay tuned. Join us again.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform. Advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
All right, many thanks for staying tuned. This is still Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television. I believe we have our guest now, Barrister Dan Ogbegie, who is a practicing lawyer and a staunch member of the... Nice to have
Thanks
you
for
finally.
having me.
How have you been?
Yeah, very fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'd like to start with Atiku's response to your principal, the president. I believe, recall that your principal made very clear assertions that if he's disqualified under the premise of 25% and federal capital territory, that there may be chaos. So I want to have your statement on that. And Atiku has responded.
Well, I already addressed that. They are playing to the gallery. You know, they used propaganda through a tribunal case. Now, what the lawyers or what the solicitors to APC and the president did was part of their prayers or their response to the petition of Atiku. They made that statement along the way, but it was not even something important. Because then that candidate will have to get a simple majority of lawful votes.
Yes.
And in addition to that, score 25% of 24 states. Because we have an opposition that is very desperate to get into power and around their campaign by propaganda, they twisted it. And because we have a population that is sometimes gullible, some of them bought into that propaganda.
Still on your line of thought, are you saying that SAN or whoever was the representative of the president didn't make such a statement that if he's disqualified on the ground of 25% simple majority, and that the team, the legal
it's
team...
only legal gymnastics or legal advocacy. The meat of their argument was that the law is specific in saying the state and Abuja. So that means Abuja was counted as a state. So like it is the 37th state of Nigeria. Okay. It is to say that Abuja is among the states for the purpose of calculating the number of states where a society get the top 25% of local vote.
Okay.
And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu scored 25%. The court exists not only to interpret the law, but to also protect the public. So they went on, just the court even decides to interpret that Tinubu did not score 25% in the FCT, and that 25% was even mandatory. They now argued that no law or no constitution means that I, Daniel Osaogbedie, who is resident in Edo State, and I'm a citizen of Nigeria, will you therefore be saying that I am inferior to a Nigerian who resides in the FCT. So you see, that is the purpose of that agreement. It will lead to chaos. People are going to ask in Osun State and in Lagos State, they will not feel it. And there will be chaos, there will be protest. That, oh, because I don't live in the FCT. But the myth just one of the states that a successful candidate is mandated by the Constitution to score 25%. One of them. So whether you score it in the FCT or you score it in Borno, but you have to score 25% in at least 24 states of the federation.
Okay.
So it is very clear.
Okay.
For somebody that doesn't want to be mischievous.
Okay,
so we
Daniel.
have a very mischievous opposition.
Okay.
And they will go at any length to push their infamous agenda and to hoodwink the Nigerian people.
Okay, the Presidential Election Petition Court will be announcing the dates for their final verdicts. I believe all the parties involved have written their final submissions and have submitted. But still on the issue of the APC, let's now move into the national party APC, and there's been ranking other names, and some of the internal stakeholders within the APC are saying that it may not be unrelated to Ganduje. That's the former Kano State, or at the National Working Committee level as it is, do not agree that they will prefer Al Makura, former Nasarawa State Governor, in place of, and as an APC chieftain, what exactly is going on?
Thank you very much, Segun. The president has the right to appoint ministers, at least one minister from each of the 36 states. So he can decide to remove. I see no reason for the fuels that opposition elements and the Nigerian press are making about it. So he has the right to do that. If that is true, that he has removed 4 names to replace them, that is entirely his prerogative.
That is correct.
Having said that, I also want to say, we need constitutional democracy in the republic, and we have an executive president. When Olusegun Obasanjo was the president of Nigeria, he was also the leader of his party, the PDP.
That's correct.
And he ensured that he had influence on his party, because the party will enable you to run government successfully. So if the president is not comfortable with the chairman of his party, so when I read that some APC leaders were against Ganduje, if it is true that Asiwaju Bola Tinubu prefers Ganduje to be chairman of the party, so be it. Ganduje is a very educated Nigerian. He was 2 times, he was a special advisor to the governor of Kano State. So he has executive experience. He has experience as an executive. Problem with Ganduje. Some people say that he has corruption allegation hanging on his neck. Corruption allegation, no matter how strong, cannot give rise to conviction. He has not been convicted by any competent court of law. He has not even the process of his trial has never commenced. He has never been invited by the FCC or the SCPC. So I don't see the problem. I don't see any problem as regards. Even for me, I would even prefer Ganduje, because Ganduje has shown loyalty to President Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. He has shown loyalty to the APC as well. So I don't think Ganduje has a problem.
Okay, Daniel, see it this way.
For me, it's not my personal choice.
Okay, Daniel, see it this way.
For me, I don't even want, I wouldn't support Amakura because the chairmanship of the APC was not.
That APC is more concerned at how it will be seen. That's the optics. And that Ganduje may have a lot of baggages. Remember the Gandola, amongst a lot of other allegations. And that they want the figurehead, the executive, or as much allegations as they are. You are very correct that he has not been tried and convicted by any competent court of law. But do you not think that these arguments are valid? That it is good to put in someone who probably does not have anything hanging over his neck? Daniel, a short break. Thereafter, we'll be right back. Please join us again.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people relationships, organization to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage for your desired return on investment and so much more. Advertise on Spectrum Television, on Star Times DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
All right, welcome back, and many thanks for staying tuned. I still have my guest here with me, Mr. Daniel Ogbege. Can you hear me clearly now? Can you hear me clearly, Mr. Facts that you were, they are more concerned about the image of the party at the national level. It has not been tried by any competent when they say they need someone without blame.
So are you done with the question, please?
Yes, I'm done.
Very clear, Shagun. I need to warn you that you have to be local. They need somebody without blemishes. Now, he that is without sin should cast the first stone. Shagun, mention one Nigerian public figure. I didn't say politician. I didn't say public office holder. Mention one Nigerian public appointed accusing figure. Mention one. There is no. Because Nigeria is a country where. So when politicians are talking about that, you just know they are playing politics. They are trying to demarcate somebody they don't like for somebody they like. That is just the thing. As I told you before, there's nothing wrong with Ganduje, and he was a good governor of Kano State. Not just any state, but Kano State. Kano, after Lagos, is probably the most commercial. What we're talking about. So forget about the excuses they try to give. If the president wants Ganduje, then so be it. Because he believes that to reorganize the party with the month Buhari allowed the so-called Asoro Kabah to do with the APC. They practically almost destroyed the APC politician wants to reorganize during Muhammadu Buhari regime.
Okay, Daniel. So you are saying that if the National Working Committee or the National Executive Committee of the party all say they do not want, can go ahead.
They won't say that. No, they won't say that, and they are not saying that. It is just one or two people who have selfish interest that are trying to push that to the media. Member of the APC National Working Committee that is saying that he doesn't want Ganduje. Nobody.
Okay. Away from...
If you contend otherwise, then I will challenge you to mention just one.
Okay.
Nobody.
Away from that,
yes.
I want to wish the APC good luck. And
thank you.
Constitutionally, by July 28th, it's expected that the president rolls out with his list of ministerial nominees. So I wish you well. But let's about that the president has been president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. You know, he has sustained some policies, removed some, added some. How would you describe his performance?
You know, sometimes when people rate performance, they want to use infrastructure projects. They want to use the number of roads you have tarred and all of that. No, policy formulations.
Okay.
Because the policy formulations are the bedrock of any successful administration that reaffirm my belief that he will do well as president on the neck of Nigeria like a sword of Damascus.
But that seems to be the most controversial yet. That seems to be the most controversial of all the, the policy formulations.
Yeah, I'm talking about it, Shagun.
Yes.
Not subsidy. But they could not. Obasanjo tried it. He could not. Buhari vowed to remove subsidy immediately he becomes president. For 8 years, he could not. But Tinubu came. Tinubu campaigned. He said he will remove subsidy. And the other, immediately he was sworn in. The first statement he made was to head this country to ransom. Tinubu has decided to stay correct to his policy for good. So we must eulogize, we must praise that kind of president who has shown tremendous courage and steadfastness to his policy of removal, courage to also take headlong all the things that have been militating against the progress of this country.
Okay. I like your optimism so far. One of the issues yet again on the presidency is that having started this way, he should also be considering formulating strategies that will cut drastically, because they say it is the horse that is in front, that those that are behind are for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What will
Nigeria show? Now, Tinubu has shown that he is not averse to that at all. In fact, he has already cut the cost of governance. If you will recall, the previous president, Muhammadu Buhari, signed the increment in salary and other. No, he didn't sign it into law. The revenue allocation and mobilization committee sent a proposal in January to the president, to the former president. If Tinubu was more concerned about his own personal well-being, he would have signed it into law to have their salaries and allowances increased when, you know, Nigeria is complaining and Nigerians are complaining. Rome was not built in a day. I was listening to your sister channel a while ago, and some of their presenters, they're complaining that things are difficult, that Tinubu promised that he will run a low.
I'm afraid time is never enough for us to, you know, exhaust these conversations. I want to thank you so much. I want to thank you so much for having enough time to discuss with us. I think at this point we'll have to draw a curtain on today's show. You've been listening to The Voice, that engaging conversations. I remain yours sincerely, Onwese Hinoma Olusegun, signing out and saying